we got a flat tire on I-84 West, about 19 miles past Pendleton. We're just waiting for AAA now because I couldn't get the spare off because the nut rusted that's holding it underneath the bed. So AAA, I'm paying for it. May as well take advantage.
That's right. So what are we doing instead?
We're watching an episode of Joe Rogan with Michael Pollan, and it's actually very enlightening and enjoyable, and Macy's enjoying it with us.
Yeah.
She's watching along. She loves Joe Rogan.
So what you just saw was the flat tire we got about 19 miles outside Pendleton. And man, our first few nights in Oregon were not pleasant. The night before, we stayed at a truck stop, which was actually a nice rest stop, I would say.
Yeah, it was the nicest rest stop we've been at this whole trip.
Yes, for sure. But it was 90 degrees at night. And so you had to have the windows open, and there are trucks coming and going. And for anybody that's slept at a truck stop, you know how loud that can be. Macy, though, slept right through it. It's funny because I remember the first truck stop we stayed at early on this trip, and she was freaking out the whole time. But now she gets the deal. She's like a truck stop kitty. So one place that had been on my radar from previous trips was Hood River. And it was like the finish line after this long travel day where we got the flat tire. It was such an oasis with the kite surfing scene there, and we ended up having dinner right on the dock at this little restaurant. Simple stuff like fish tacos, and it was just so good. So nice to have a swim in the Columbia River. I haven't spent much time in Hood River, but like it's a Jesse place for sure.
It was such a nice welcome to the West Coast. After being out in Idaho and Montana for a while, it was so nice to feel like we were getting really close to the ocean and to be able to just jump in the water and go swimming and just kind of feel like you were getting close to the beach.
So for our Portland leg, we decided to stay at Barton Park in Boring, Oregon. We didn't really spend enough time in Boring to see if it was true to its name, but they definitely liked using it as puns on various signs.
Yeah.
And they have a sister city called Dull, Scotland, which is pretty fun. Like, bravo, well done, people of Boring.
We chose to stay at Barton Park because it was inexpensive and it had hookups and it was pretty close to Portland. And it also kind of had some trees and it was near a river, which is honestly what we prefer to an RV park.
So after work, I would bike down to the Clackamas River and just like sit in the water, and it was so refreshing. And you could see people like floating by. It was like a huge float scene. So
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I would see all like the drunk people getting out of their tubes, and it was pretty fun. So one day I was exploring some of the trails around our site, and I stumbled upon an abandoned basketball court that was surrounded by blackberry bushes. So I had a field day picking those, and we ended up having blackberry pancakes, which is really special.
Yeah.
And we love those little finds from just exploring and walking around. So that was a cool surprise.
It turns out that tons of our berries in this country, a lot of our blackberries and raspberries come from the Portland area, and you can just like find them anywhere. So I was really excited to go to Portland because it's a city that I've never been to, and my best friend Mariya lives there. So she was a big reason why we decided to stay there for a whole week, and she was a great ambassador for the Portland area.
And to make the deal even sweeter, my cousin Isabelle also lives in Portland, and she was like wheeling and dealing the recommendations as well, and they combined made sure that we had an incredible time dining out and exploring the city.
So one day Mariya invited us over to her sister's house where she was babysitting her nephews, and we had a pool party, and it was super fun. It was really great to hang out with her nephews for the first time and just like have a good old, dinner party with your friends.
And we're used to like, scrubbing off and like creeks and stuff. So like being in a pool was like a very bougie thing for us. I was like, well, look at this, you know?
Jesse really enjoyed all the toys that were meant for the children.
Luckily, I didn't break any of the kids' toys or inflatables. And Chris, Maria's husband, had an Oculus, so we also got to play with that thing, and that was pretty fun. And I got really sweaty and had a great time.
He played with it for like hours.
No, it wasn't. It was like an hour. Time is different when you're wearing an Oculus. You're in a different world. So we wanted to have like a date day in Portland, so I scheduled out this whole day of stops for us, and it went pretty well. We started off with a ramen lunch at a Furi Ramen. We're big gyoza people, so we crushed some gyozas there and had some amazing ramen and poke. And so I'm always looking for unique bookstores in these towns, and Powell's tops the list. It's a Portland household name, known as one of the biggest independent bookstores in the country. They had tons of different rooms and just an amazing selection of books.
The next stop was Voodoo Donuts, and I had Voodoo Donuts before, but Jesse hadn't, so we were really stoked to go. So we treated ourselves to a half dozen donuts, and we each got to pick 3. So I chose the Mango Tango, the Campfire Canolo, and the best donut I've ever had in my life, the Maple Glazed Bacon Donut.
And I got an assortment of donuts as well. One of them was coated in Captain Crunch. Another one had a little chili pepper that you ate with it. That was amazing. I didn't get this one, but they also had a donut in the shape of a penis and balls. I think it was like eclair style. People get it. People get what's going on. So to wrap up this whole day-long adventure, we stopped at Raven's Manor, which was a relatively new bar. I think it's only a couple months old, and it's known as a haunted bar. So they've actually had ghost hunters go through this, believe what you will, and scan it for like weird electromagnetic fields, and they found a bunch of stuff under here. Now the interesting thing is, underneath the bar, there's access to the Shanghai tunnels. So people would get drunk in the bar and then get kidnapped, whisked away underground to the wharf where they would be conscripted into service on a ship.
I think Jesse was secretly hoping that would happen to him so he could live his dream as a sailor.
But a lot of detail was put into this bar, and the bar itself was this huge wooden structure that was just gorgeous. And we had our first absinthe of the trip there, so that was kind of special. They had it in this cool glass with this little water thing going on.
Yeah, they did a really cool job with their drinks there and having everything kind of be on theme with like spooky old potions and creepy stuff like that. There was one drink that was like glow in the dark, like neon
and
green,
like
in a beaker that was like smoking and stuff like that.
There's a whole story to the place.
Yeah.
So. And they have like an escape the room experience there too. So it's really an incredible place.
They do.
I'm sure they're going to do great.
Yeah, you can like sign up to get like the shit scared out of you there and they'll like happily do it.
So Isabelle picked this brunch place for us one morning, and it was a southern comfort food joint, and the chicken and waffles were incredible. We also had praline bacon. If you've never had praline bacon, make it happen. You will not regret it. It was awesome to connect with Isabelle too. I don't think I'd seen her in years.
So one of my top priorities while we were in Oregon was to go out to wine country. I love my Oregon Pinot Noirs. It's my favorite kind of wine. So I was trying to think about how I could lure Jesse out there into wine country with me one day. And I thought it would be the perfect thing to surprise him with a glider flight. Ever since we saw our first glide port in Arizona, I saw the twinkle in his eye and how badly he wanted to try it. So I have kept my eye out for places that are willing to take people up on rides. And it just so happened that the Willamette Valley Soaring Club, which is entirely volunteer run, offers introductory gliding rides, and they even will let you steer the plane.
So this was a total surprise to me, and it was one of the nicest things anyone's ever done for me. So my co-pilot was Kaz, and he put me in the front seat so I could get the best view. So I thought that was really nice of him. So gliders are essentially planes without engines. So how it goes is you have a tow plane that pulls you up to 3,000, 4,000 feet, and then you glide around looking for thermals, which are hot air vortexes that can actually help you gain altitude. So ideally, you could ride for hours and just cruise up on these thermals and then ride down, then find another thermal and kind of cruise up on that and just keep the glide going. Our flight was much more simple than that. We just got towed up there and then glided down. The takeoff was such a rush. I felt a little bit like an astronaut because it goes so fast and it's really bumpy, so you're just like... Once you get up in the air, the funny thing to me was the tow plane in front of me. It felt like I had a wingman. Once you unhitch, the plane slows down a little bit, it gets a little bit quieter, and you're able to do some fun maneuvers and cruise around. So at one point, Kaz let me take the stick and make some moves, and he just recommended I keep it above 50 knots, which is about 60 miles an hour. So using the stick to maneuver the plane was really interesting because you'd pitch forward and gain a ton of speed, and then you'd pull back and you could feel the G-forces. It was really sensitive. It almost felt like you were going down the highway at 60 or 70 miles an hour. That was kind of like the sensation with the air and the noise inside. Otherwise, it was pretty quiet. I was a little spooked when I first took the stick, and then I was able to like get a feel for the plane and get some confidence. And by the end of it, I was like, man, I want to do more of this. I want to take her up again. But they were really nice to get us late in the afternoon, and it was just an incredible experience. I'm definitely going to look into doing this when I get back to New England.
The glide port was the perfect jumping off point to visit some of the vineyards in the Willamette Valley area. So we hit 2 of them after we finished up with the gliding. The first place we went to was called Blizzard, and there we were able to get a bottle of their 2018 Pinot Noir and charcuterie because we were starving. From there we went to Hawksview Winery, just down the road. At Hawksview we did one of their tastings and got to try some really unique wines that I had never tried before, like their white Pinot Noir and their carbonic Pinot Noir. So we had a great time there learning all about their different Pinots, and our server was fantastic. And the next day, the wine tour continued at Fullerton, downtown Portland. My friend Mariya treated us to an amazing wine tasting there, which again, all Pinot. I was a very happy girl. And it was really interesting to taste the difference between where each grape was grown, because it was the same grape, right? But they were all grown in different environments, and it was really cool to experience how all those factors can really change the taste of the wine.
So Fullerton was just a primer for the rest of the day, which we spent on a boat with Mariya, Chris, their friend Ethan, and Isabelle. And that was an awesome little adventure. We took their boat out to this island right outside the harbor and just posted up for a few hours.
I know Jesse loves boats, so anytime there's a chance to get him on one, I'm...
Boats and planes and trains.
Boats and planes and trains, you know. So from Portland, we're heading to the Oregon coast, where we're hoping to see a bit of the West Coast Ocean. I've never been to the Oregon coast. I'm really excited to see what it's like.
See you guys there.
Bye.
So to wrap up this day-long adventure, we stopped at Raven's Manor. Manor.
It's a manor.
We stopped at Raven's Manor.
It's a manor.
Manor.
Manor is like what we are.
Yeah,
Manors.
It's a manor.
Manor.
Manor. Okay. Sounds so weird.